Good day, this is Donna Carroll, and my little reflection today is speaking about ayahuasca as a tool for the evolution of consciousness. Now, firstly, before I share my experience, I would like to say that I'm not promoting ayahuasca. It's a very, very powerful hallucinogenic. And it's not for everyone. It's certainly not for the faint-hearted. It's a medicine, a plant medicine that will really rip the veil away and catapult you into all kinds of strange realms. And so it's something that you really need to be called towards or ready for. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just speak about my very first ayahuasca experience. And the reason why I choose to speak about the first experience is because for me, I feel like it really was a massive catapult into an accelerated rate of expansion, if you like, an accelerated rate of understanding and understanding, particularly of the more cosmic aspect of my consciousness. Now, we hear the word a lot, is someone awake or awakening or are you woke? And what does that even mean? Every single human being on the planet is at a different level of their evolution, a different level of their expansion, their awakening, if you like. So, for example, 20 years ago when I read my way through the David Icke collection, and I learnt some really harsh truths about what was going on the planet, that could be considered as part of an awakening process, becoming more aware of truths that were previously hidden from me. But was I awake? That's questionable. And of course, the journey of evolution is ever expanding. So my feeling here is that it doesn't matter where you are on a journey of evolution, and that journey will continue. So we're going back about 2.5 to 3 years when I suddenly had this real pull to go and engage in ayahuasca. It's something that I had been thinking about for a few years prior, and I had had some experience with DMT. So therefore, I felt that the DMT really kind of opened me up to these other realms, if you like, and it opened up a real curiosity. I wanted to know more. I wanted to know more about what I was experiencing, because of course DMT is very, very fast. It's a really intense but rapid experience. And for myself, the DMT experience lasted on average roughly about 8 minutes. But in a very, very short time, you could gain a lot of insight, because time is not the same when you explore into these other realms, when you break through into these other realms, into these other dimensions, if you like. So when I arrived at the retreat, I was really, really nervous. I was nervous for a number of reasons, obviously engaging in this powerful plant medicine, but also, arriving somewhere on my own with lots of strangers. And so that in itself was pushing me outside of my comfort zone, if you like. I've been a mother since I was 20, so I've not done a lot of travelling or a lot of getting away on my own. So that in itself was a new experience for me. So the experience itself, the ceremonies, were held in this beautiful big yurt, and there were around 20 participants, plus, at least 8 facilitators, which included musicians. And this was something that I wasn't aware of, that during the ceremonies themselves there would be a lot of live music. And so going into the first evening, again, nervous, apprehensive, not really sure exactly what to expect. When I took my first lot of ayahuasca, I didn't really feel anything. In fact, what I noticed was my overactive mind, the voice in my head that just would not quieten down. And so for the first couple of hours, I was just having this battle with myself, really. I couldn't relax. I was still a bit nervous. I wasn't really feeling anything. And so I was just going with it. I had no choice. So we got on to 2 hours into the ceremony. We were offered a second dose of ayahuasca. And when I took the second dose, really, really quite quickly, I began to feel something. I wasn't sure what yet. Now, I was laid on my mat with my eyes closed. And at this point was the first point in the evening when one of the facilitators actually began to sing live. Prior to that, it had been recorded music. And the difference between hearing someone sing live and the recorded music was quite profound. And I opened my eyes to see what was going on. And as I opened my eyes and began to look at this facilitator who was singing, she had a beautiful voice. She began to shapeshift into 3 different forms. So one minute she was herself, then she shapeshifted into an old Native American looking lady. And then she shapeshifted into a sort of African black lady. And this was really fascinating because it was clear as day. When she shapeshifted into another form, it was like I was looking at a completely different human being singing. And then I began to actually see the music. Again, this was really, really fascinating and really, really beautiful experience. And, I could see colours and shapes all around her that were the music that she was creating. And so I just sat in awe, really, watching this, thinking, wow, this is beautiful, this is amazing. And then afterwards, I lay down and I fell asleep. And so that was it for me. So it was very short. And when I woke up in the morning, I realised that I'd only really got a glimpse into kind of the magic of this plant medicine, if you like. So I had a restful day the following day. I was beginning to feel more comfortable, particularly becoming a little bit more familiar with the other people that were at the retreat with me. And when I went into the retreat on the second night, I had this idea of just really anchoring myself into the music, singing the music, swaying, dancing, in a seated position in my own little space, so as not to interrupt anyone else. But I thought this would be a nice way just to control my monkey mind. So this time was very different. Very, very shortly after I took my first dose of the medicine, I began to move into other realms, if you like. Now, these realms are very, very strange. I recognise them from doing the DMT in the past, but they're very, very strange realms, and they they almost reminded me of something that Terence McKenna said about the worker elves, I think he called them. And it's almost like these little kind of nodes of consciousness that are actually weaving what we know as reality all around us. And that's how I experienced it. And so I was just for some time just moving in and out of these strange realms. It didn't really mean anything. They were quite abstract in a lot of ways, but very, very intense. I mean, the whole room was disappearing around me, and I was being transported somewhere else, really. So this is when my experience began to get more interesting, and I found myself being pulled into a space that looked like a labyrinth. Now, this labyrinth, as I say, it was a very strange space and it had a bit of a strange feel to it. And I noticed that there were gates. So I was standing, if you like, at a gate that had a jester, almost kind of guarding the gate, if you like. And the gate was labelled gate number 1. So I was standing at this gate and I had this intuition that I had to have some kind of realisation to move through this gate. And that's exactly what happened. So I had some kind of self-realisation. I can't remember what that was now. But as soon as I had a self-realisation that was true, the gate would open and I would move deeper into this labyrinth. And I got to gate number 2. And again, moving deeper into this labyrinth. And I thought, wow, I get this. Okay. And so I just kept trying to come up with self-realizations. And of course, every single time that I did have a self-realization that was true, I got to move on to the next gate. So I continued on with this, but what happens in ayahuasca is you don't particularly stay in one realm. So at the same time as having this experience, I'm also being pulled into different realms. I'm also having moments where I'm lying with my eyes wide open and I'm seeing visions and images appear around me or on the walls or on the skylight of the yurt. And so you're having lots of different experiences simultaneously, which is why the experience can be so intense. You really do have no choice but to surrender and just allow things to unfold as designed. So I got to, within this labyrinth, I got to gate number 8. And I honestly, I couldn't think of anything else. I kept kind of giving all these different realizations and I just couldn't get it. I wasn't moving any further beyond this particular gate. Now, at this point, I ended up opening my eyes. I was a little bit frustrated because I wasn't getting anywhere. I have no idea how long I was trying to go beyond gate number 8. But with my eyes wide opened, I began to see visuals appearing on the skylight above me. And as I'm looking at the skylight, I can clearly hear a voice which I associated as being like my higher self, if you like. And these visions began to tell me a story. And the story was the story of humanity. And I didn't fully understand it at the time, but I'm watching and I'm taking in what is being given to me. Now, to begin with, it was a bit strange because I saw what looked like a spaceship and what looked like aliens or extraterrestrials. And I was showing and being told that humanity as a whole from the beginning of time is moving through a journey of evolution. Now, at this point in time, I wasn't really into conscious evolution. I was curious about stuff, but I didn't have any real understanding or any depth to what any of this meant. And my higher self reassured me that everything was okay and that I was supposed to be here. And in fact, I'd chosen to be here, not to worry about the chaos that was unfolding around me on the planet, that humanity was kind of in an adolescence phase, if you like. So likened it to them being in a teenage phase, chaotic, not quite reached maturity, not quite reached adulthood, and that humanity was about to mature, and that humanity was about to become adults, and that my role in this phase was to help assist create heaven on earth. Now, at this point, what I would like to add is that it wasn't just the words that were being translated to me, and it wasn't just the images that I was being shown. It was the deep, deep, deep feelings that I was also experiencing as I was having this experience, and it was deeply, deeply touching. It was deeply, deeply relieving in a way. I almost felt in that moment that, thank goodness, all of this pain and all of this struggle and all of these feelings of disconnect and everything that I had experienced in this journey of life wasn't for nothing. So it was a deeply profound experience for me, and I actually went into a state of joy. So that was lovely. Now, that was the kind of summing up. And again, I just want to say that, you could never sum up the whole of an experience on one night of ayahuasca. Now, obviously, it's different for everyone, but for me, so much happens just in one night alone on an ayahuasca experience that you could almost write a book on the amount of different experiences you have, and also the different meanings that you attach to these different experiences, and so many different realms and layers to it. It's multidimensional, so many realizations, which is what makes it so profound. Ayahuasca is also a deep purging plant medicine, so there's a lot of releasing in lots of different ways. You release a lot of energy during the experience, and of course, so you're just becoming lighter and lighter energetically as well as you move through. So going on to night number 3. So before night number 3, in the morning of day 3, when I woke up, the intensity and the magnitude of the experience of the evening before really hit me. And I became hugely emotional and overwhelmed. And I cried, and I cried, and I cried, and I cried. Now, they weren't tears of sadness or tears of shock or anything like that. They were tears of pure relief, is what it felt like, pure relief. As I said, that this wasn't all for nothing. And when I done my sharing that morning, I could barely share my experience because of the emotions that were running through me. So moving on to night number 3. At this point, I felt happy, I felt calm, I felt full of love, I felt a connection that I hadn't felt in a long, long time. And if I'm quite honest with you, I could have quite happily went home then. But of course, the journey wasn't complete. There was still one more evening ceremony to move through. Now, you would expect, because I went into the space in a place of love and calm and happiness, that I would have an experience to suit this. But unfortunately, this is not how ayahuasca works. And you don't get what you want, you get what you need. And the energy when the medicine began to work on me on night number 3 was a very different vibration. It was a vibration of being quite I felt quite scared. There was a fear, quite charged feeling of fear, anticipation, and there was almost a feeling of again, extraterrestrials or aliens of some kind. And I've always had quite a until recently, I've always had quite a deep fear of aliens for multiple different reasons. One being probably some of the movies in which I watched when I was much younger, about alien abductions, and so forth. So immediately this wasn't pleasant for me, and I was lay there thinking, oh my goodness, I had this beautiful experience of being connected to God, and getting this lovely profound message about who I am and why I'm here, to now being faced with extraterrestrials and thinking, who and what is God? Is what we perceive to be God an extraterrestrial? And I'm having to face all this fear. And so the evening goes on like this, and I do a lot of kind of energetic purging, removing a lot of these layers of fear. And going back to night number 2, I found myself back in this labyrinth again, at gate number 8 from where I left off. Now, I kind of understood the way that this labyrinth works. You have a self-realization, you move through the gate. But I'd kind of got stuck at gate number 8 the evening before. And so I just began listing things that I thought that I should know, that I should realize in my mind over and over, all different things, anything I could think of. Now, I must have been stuck in this phase for a good hour, to the point where I was literally driving myself insane. And I got to the point where I just thought, I give up. I just give up. And as I gave up, I just relaxed into my body. And as I relaxed into my body, I suddenly heard a little voice, or had an intuition that spoke to me, that said, the labyrinth is your mind. And the moment I had this realization that the labyrinth was my mind, the whole labyrinth fell away. And when the labyrinth fell away, I just found myself just floating about this beautiful, beautiful, expansive, open, like, realm, a sort of hyperspace, if you like, with these beautiful geometric structures. And the feeling was just expansiveness and freedom and ease and love. And again, it felt really profound. And of course, the learning was to get out of my mind, to stop analysing everything, to stop trying to work it all out. You're just stuck in a labyrinth, which is preventing you from reaching the wider aspects of who and what you are, which is the whole cosmos, the whole universe. And so by the time I finished my journey over the 3 nights, I left and I felt a sense of ease that I hadn't felt before. I felt a sense of expansion that I hadn't felt before. My ego personality was so quiet I could barely even notice it was there. The voice in my head, the monkey mind that wouldn't quiet in on night number 1, was very, very silent. The sensitivities I had to energy were profound, like I hadn't felt in a long, long time, or that I couldn't even remember feeling so open and so sensitive to energy. And when I left, I just felt like a completely renewed version of myself. And of course, I possibly naively thought that this is how I would stay. But of course, when you leave, you have to get back to normal life, normal work, your normal relations, normal dramas, etc. So over time, this sense or new sense of being or feeling or seeing does begin to slowly fade. But there's something so profound about the experience that it stays with you. And in fact, it was shortly after this experience that I began to change pretty much every single aspect of my life that wasn't working for me. And it really was, looking back, reflecting back, it really was the start of a huge jump for me in my conscious evolution, in my beginning to remove fears of things like extraterrestrials, which would then allow me to begin to connect to my cosmic consciousness, for example. Begin to have a much clearer knowing of who I am and why I'm here, and really begin the journey of clearing, um, connecting on a deeper level, and expanding. And so I just wanted to share that with you. And again, as I said at the start, this is not for everyone. I don't believe it's for everyone. I know people that have gone on the ayahuasca journeys and they go around trying to convince everyone they meet that they should do it. That's something that I have never done, because I believe it's something you will be called to do, if it's meant for you. As I said, it's not for the faint-hearted. It's a very powerful experience, and you might not be ready for that experience. However, if it is something that you've been feeling called or pulled towards, again, this is only my experience. I believe it can be a catapult into a much more expanded level of awareness. So yes, so thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed my little reflection on my very first ayahuasca experience. I'm continuing to evolve. I'm continuing to expand. And as I said at the start, I don't think this journey ends. So if you enjoyed listening to my little reflection, check out Love Consciousness, where you can hear more of my reflections. Enjoy the rest of your day, and sending you much love.